Hey, hello everybody. Okay, first of all, let me make an excuse for this video. uh, I have a pretty good editing program, but I just don't use it enough to really to know how to use it. So the editing here is terrible. I'm very sorry. I mean, it's a long video. I'm sorry. If you don't want to watch the whole thing, then at least skip to the ending where I show you all the plants that I have mounted on the base on the bases, and they look pretty cool. They really do. Okay, so here's what I'm doing here. I made a sander out of a squirrel fan. You could see the fan right there. Um, what I did, well, I'll show you later on in the video. All right, so what I'm doing now is I'm trying to make these triangles. Actually, they're not triangles, they're diamonds. And they're, just cut out of wood. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to give them a little bit of a little shape, other than triangle. I want them to look like leaves. Now, there's no detail, there's no veins in the leaves, nothing like that. It's just an impression of leaves, okay? So all of this will come together once you see what I'm talking about. You know, uh, Unfortunately, I jabber a lot. Uh, you know. Okay, so anyway, um, what I'm doing is I'm mounting elkhorn ferns. Now, there's a big difference between elkhorn and staghorn ferns. There's a big difference. A lot of people don't know the difference. Even the ones that grow these things don't know the difference. I've noticed on YouTube, people talk about staghorn ferns, and they're actually elkhorn ferns. All right, so here's what's going on. There's the triangles. I like I said, I sanded them to give them a little bit a little contour, other than to be a diamond. They kind of do look like leaves. But anyway, to get back to the staghorn thing, uh, these ferns have a, a round leaf at the base of them, and that leaf is called a sterile leaf. There's a couple names for it. I can't remember what they are, but anyway, what that leaf does is it protects the roots, and it traps water. But it does not grow spores. Now, the thin leaves that you will see coming up, the thin leaves do produce spores, but the big round one doesn't. Now, on a staghorn, the big round one is huge. They're very big. They cover. I mean, they're 2 feet in diameter. They're huge. Anyway, on the elkhorn, they're smaller. Okay, so the base that I'm using, it's these wooden panels. A friend of mine opened up a bar, and he put wooden panels on the ceiling, which turned out to be a big mistake because of the echo. I mean, the ceiling looked great, but the sound was horrible, especially when they had live bands. All right, so anyway, I helped them put the ceiling up. I helped the main guy a little bit. I was the gopher. And when we were finished, we had a whole lot of these wooden panels left. I don't know what kind of wood it is. It might be cedar or something like that. But anyway, there was a lot of this wood left, and I asked my buddy. I said, "What are you going to do with all these pieces?" He said, "I'm going to throw them in a dumpster." I was like, "What?" I mean, this is very nice wood. They're about 3 feet long and about I'm going to say I don't know, 8 inches wide. And it's kind of a tongue and groove thing. So anyway, I told him, I said, no, don't throw them away. Let me pull my truck up, and I want to take them. So I did. I pulled up my pickup truck, and I filled the whole back with these things. And I've had them at my house for 10 years. Occasionally I would use one, but now I found a perfect use for them, which is these bases. And what I do is I line up 6 of them, and then I glue 6 more on top, going the opposite direction. In other words, the first ones are going horizontal, the second ones will be vertical, horizontal, and then vertical. Okay, so we have either 3 or 4 layers of these things. Oh, and then I screw them together, and out of that big pile, I end up with 9 bases for these plants. You'll see the bases coming up in a minute. But anyway, this little saw right here, this table saw, this thing is awesome. You know, I bought a little saw at Harbor Freight, and man, that thing was horrible. I kid you not, you could barely cut cardboard with that saw. It was called the Mighty Mite. Don't waste your money on the Mighty Mite. Forget it. It was terrible. So I ended up buying this one from a company in China. Of course, you know, everything comes from China. And this little saw is awesome. I'm telling you. The blade is adjustable. It goes up and down. It's perfect. Okay, now there's the bases that I'm talking about. Like I said, out of the 6 lined up horizontal, 6 vertical, 6 horizontal, I ended up getting 9 of these bases out of the one giant thing that I glued together and screwed together and all of that. Okay, so now what you're looking at is a squirrel fan. I needed a squirrel fan back in the old times when I was doing hydroponics in the house, and this is the squirrel fan. So after I stopped doing the hydroponics, I put this thing in the closet. You know, I have a real problem throwing things away like this. So I put it in the closet. It sat in the closet for 10 years, and then one day I needed a sander. And I thought, you know what, let me try to convert this squirrel fan into a sander. Well, there, I just turned it on. You could see it is pretty powerful. It does move quite fast. So anyway, I found a plastic cup in the cupboard, and I needed some backing, which was that thing that I was just playing with. So I put the backing on the fan and put the cup on, and it works perfect. I mean, this thing is dynamite. I love it. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, you saw those 3 diamond-shaped things that I kind of turned into a leaf-shaped thing. Now what I'm going to do is, I had an idea of putting a crescent moon with some stars. Okay, so this is what I'm doing here. What I did was, I had a piece of that plastic that's used to cover fluorescent light fixtures, and one day I tried to cut it on the saw, and what happened was it was very jagged. See, there's a little piece of it there. It was very jagged. So then what I did was, I put some tape on the back, and then I tried to cut it, and it came out perfect. With the tape prevents it from the jagged edges. You know, you get a nice smooth edge if you put the tape on. All right, anyway, that's what I'm doing there. I'm cutting out stars. Yeah, so the stars I painted white on the back, and unfortunately I can't screw those into the base because you'll see the screw. So what I did was, I glued them on to the bases. Again, you'll see it coming up, and hopefully the glue will will hold up. You know, don't forget, these things are going outside, so I'm just hoping that the glue will hold. On the stars, on the moons, I have a screw, 1 screw in each moon. And then what I did was, I filled the holes where the screw is. I sunk the screws deep into the wood so you can't see the screw. And then I filled them up with wood putty. Now I found this wood putty that it's pink. I don't know the name of it, but this stuff is dynamite. It starts out pink, and then as it dries, it turns white. So you know when to sand it. You know what I mean? You can't mess up. If it's still pink, you can't sand it. You got to wait till it turns white. Okay, so yeah, I covered all that. Okay. If you're looking for that wood putty, look for one with a pink lid. The lid on the little plastic tub, the lid is pink. I really like it. Its stuff is nice. Uh, Unfortunately, I don't. Okay, there we go. All right, so there's the wood putty. You can see it is dry because it turned white. Now I just have to sand it, and then I'm gonna paint the leaves, or the kind of look like leaves. I'm gonna paint those green and yellow. I've got. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on that on the paint. All right, now look. What I did here was I took 4 pieces, 10 feet each, of copper wire. All right, I connected those to the handle on my shed, and then the other end. Now don't forget they're 10 feet. On the other end, I put the 4 ends into my drill. All right, I tightened it down, and then I turned on the drill, and it wound up the 4 pieces into one big long wire. All right, so that wire is 4 pieces strength, and it's all wound up into a nice tight wire. Okay, now that's what I'm going to use to hang these things on, or to hang them with. Sorry, and okay, so the way I'm going to do that is I'll put 2 screws in the back, and just wrap the wire around. All right, now here, this is the next day. Everything here is dry. It's been painted. It's dry. Now what I'm going to do, excuse me. Now I'm going to put a layer of polyurethane on the base. The polyurethane will do a couple of things. It will protect the paint from the elements, and it'll also let the wood shine a little bit. All right, now don't forget, I ended up getting 9 of these things out of the one board. So I will have 9 more elkhorn ferns coming here pretty soon. All right, I'm trying to get this thing open here for the polyurethane. Okay. Whoops. Yeah, there's a layer on top. I haven't used it in a while. You know what's a good idea? What I do is I buy those paintbrushes. They're cheap. They're real cheap. And I just throw them away after each use, Rather than try to clean the polyurethane off the brush, it's not worth it. I just throw them away. It's the way to go. They are disposable brushes. They're very cheap. I forget how much they are. They're less than 50 cents each. Okay, so here I am putting a layer of polyurethane on. Oh boy, this is taking a long time. Like I said, I could have done a better editing job if I knew what I was doing, but I don't. I mean, every time I try to edit, I end up screwing something up. The scenes get out of sequence. It's just a disaster. Like I said, I don't use the program enough to know what I'm doing, and that's how it goes. All right, so there are the leaves, the 3 leaves, and the base, and I'm going to put the fern right in the middle of the base. They really do look nice, I'm telling you. I showed one to my neighbor, and she said I could get $35 easy for one of these. I mean, that's what I'm doing. It's basically a hobby that I can make money at, So, I mean, that's where it's at. My paintings I don't sell. I don't sell those. Not at all. I mean, I don't even want to entertain the idea. But this kind of stuff, yeah, I can, I can sell this stuff. Not a problem. Um, okay, I speeded this up. Thank goodness. I should have made it even faster. Yeah, sorry it takes so long. Might be kind of boring. But you know what I was thinking? Somebody mentioned to me that I should start a hobby channel. Because I try to keep busy, and I do a lot of this kind of stuff. Um, I am retired, and I don't want to sit on the couch. That's for sure. I've gotten excellent reviews from my doctor as far as whatever I'm doing. She said just keep on doing it. Uh, I took a radiation. Wait a minute, what was it? Hold on, it was a radioactive stress test. Most people in the medical industry would know what I'm talking about there. It's a stress test. They give you they give you a shot of this stuff which makes your heart rate increase, and then they put this radioactive stuff into your veins, and then they put you in one of those tubes, and they watch how much blood your heart is pumping, and the average is between, I think they said 55 and 70. If your numbers are within there, you're in good shape. What they do is when your heart pumps, when your heart pushes blood out, it doesn't empty. It doesn't push all the blood out. So anyway, mine was 64%. Man, I mean, that's great for a guy my age. That is dynamite. Okay, so there's the two different kinds I'm making today. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the wire on the back. So I needed that towel so I don't scratch anything on the other side. I should have done this to begin with, but I forgot. So anyway, there's the wire. You can barely see it. All right, here comes a couple screws. Now what I'm going to do, like I said, I'm going to put in 2 screws. I'm going to connect one side of the wire, tighten the screw down. All right, there you go. Tighten it down. Okay, then, I just do this by eye, to see the length. All right, and then cut off the excess wire. Now I still have 9 feet of wire. That's what I do. I mean, I'm going to make a 10-foot wire rather than try to make a 1-foot wire 10 times. Forget it. All right, so there's the wire to hang it. That's it. It's ready. Nothing to it. The back side I did not polyurethane. Okay, now I'm going to put in 6 small screws. Here I'm separating the screws from the washers. I had screws and washers together. All right, so I'm going to put 3 on one side and 3 on the other side. These are smaller screws. And then I'm going to take some fishing line and tie it onto one of the screws. All right, now what that's going to do, the fishing line is going to hold the sphagnum moss, which is coming up. You'll see. All right, don't worry about those spots with no paint. That's nothing. It'll be covered by the plant. If you look on YouTube about elkhorn ferns, it'll tell you that use sphagnum moss when you go to mount this plant onto a board. All right. Well, oh wait. By the way, all those little imperfections are going to be covered up. Wait, I'll show you here in a minute. You can see well, you can't see it now, but there are some little imperfections there around the stars, but that's all going to be taken care of once I get the polyurethane on. Okay, so wait a minute. Oh, sphagnum moss. Yeah. What I do is I use sphagnum moss and I use a coconut moss. and it's called coconut peat. And what they do is uh, they grind up coconut shells, and you use it as peat moss. All right, and I like to mix it with the sphagnum moss because it retains the water. It'll hold the water very, it holds water better than sphagnum moss does. So I use half and half, sphagnum and the coconut, and it works out very well. All right, now look, this is the mother plant, and if you look underneath, you can see the bare spots where I've already taken off the pups. Okay, each one of those plants is called a pup, and each one is an individual. So, you can remove, 98% of these pups, and you won't kill the ball, the mother plant. You won't kill it. What it'll do is it'll put out spores, and the spores will stick to the ball, and they'll start growing new plants. That's how all these little pups are on there, is they come from spores. Now the leaves are the things that are producing the spores. That big round leaf, that green one, the round one, does not produce spores. All that does is protect the roots, and it catches water. That's all it does. These long thin leaves, they're the ones that produce the spores. All right, now I'm going to show you now how to cut off a pup. It's coming up here. All right, the first thing you got to do is find one that you want. I like to take them from underneath because it leaves the mother plant looking like looks like nothing happened. Okay, there, I've got a good sized bread knife. All right, now what you want to do is you want to go around the sterile leaf. You go around that round leaf and with the knife, and you want to save about a 1/2 inch to 1 inch on the back of the pup. See, what this is it's a whole bunch of layers of pups. So in other words, when that big round leaf dies, it turns brown, and then a new pup will start growing where that one was. So it's layer after layer. In other words, underneath the pups, there's layers upon layers of dead pups. All right, so the plant itself, the whole thing, the whole collection of pups, keeps getting bigger and bigger, and that's how it does it. It like I say, underneath there's dried dead pups. Okay, so here I am. I'm just trying to cut around the sterile leaf. I'm trying to leave an inch and a half, or an inch to a 1/2 inch of the stuff behind the pup. Now look, they do have roots, but you would never know that they're roots. They're very fine little, they look like hairs, and they look dried out. They look like, I don't know, they just look like something that's dead, but those are the roots. So what you want to do is you want to save enough of the back to where you have roots on the pup that you're breaking off. Okay, all right, so that's what I'm doing. Oh, also you want to try to be careful with the sterile leaf. You don't want to stab it or touch it or smash it or anything like that. You want to try to leave that intact, undisturbed. Now if you do damage it, well, that's all right. It's just going to grow another one. But you do want to try to keep it. Okay, there. Now you can see the pup that I'm trying to cut out. There it is. You see? Okay. Now I've got a hold of this thing by the long leaves. I'm trying to be careful of the sterile leaf. All right. There, it's almost out. Let me see. It's getting real close. In fact, you can see there's a new pup on the left-hand side of this one that I'm cutting out. Watch. Watch, hold on. There's two pups on this one plant. Each one of these plants is an individual. See that the little one on the left? There's a little one on the left that's coming out. Okay, that brown one on top, well, that's one that's already dead. Okay. All right, so anyway, that is the plant that I'm going to mount onto this board. All right, now there's the fishing line. I know you can't see it. And I have the 6 screws into the base. All right, now I'm going to wrap the fishing line around one of the screws. And I'm going to put the sphagnum moss and the coconut peat moss. There, it's mixed together. It's sphagnum and coconut. They're mixed. And okay, now you have to find a way to connect that onto the board. So the fishing line, all right? So I'm going to wrap around one of the screws. And then I'm just going to wrap the fishing line. I'm just going to go in a zigzag pattern to secure the sphagnum moss onto the board. All right, so that's what the little screws and the fishing line is doing. It's going to hold the sphagnum moss and the coconut onto the board. All right. Okay, so I'm sorry. This I should have edited this, but like I said, I'm no good at that. So anyway, bear with me here. This is worth watching till the end. The ending is nice. I show you a whole bunch of plants that I've already done, and now you can use any kind of board for the back. You could use driftwood. You could use pond fronds. In fact, I've done that. Where some palm trees, the base of the pond frond is very wide. That might be 12 or 14 inches wide on the base. And then they die off and a new one grows. And what I've done is I've taken some of those big pond frond, I've cut them at the base, and I've mounted the moss onto the base of those things. And yeah, that looks pretty cool. I've got a couple of those already with the pond fronds. I don't have any of those types of palm trees. I usually find them, people throw them out by the curb for the garbage men to pick up. And, if I happen to be riding by, I'll stop and I'll pick them up and bring them home and cut them, and boom. It's a very nice base. It's cool because it's all natural, All right, so here I am. I'm trying to get... All right, now I'm tightening down the screws. Okay, there you go. You can see the sphagnum moss is secured to the base. All right, now there's the plant. Now what I want to do is I want to give it a little bit of water before I put it on there. So I'm spraying it with water. Okay, now I have to secure the plant onto the board. And what I do is this. I don't use rope because rope will disintegrate. Rope will rot. And I'm not sure about using wire because I don't know if the wire will affect the plant. But there you can see I have a chopstick that I'm sharpening. All right, and what I use is aquarium hose. And what I did was I put the aquarium hose on the end of the chopstick, and then I sharpened it. And now I'm going to use the chopstick as a needle. And I'm going to go through the back of the fern. Don't forget, I left a 1/2 inch to 1 inch on the back. And I'm going to go through the back of the fern with the chopstick as a needle. And that's going to pull the hose through the hole that I'm making here, and then I'm going to screw the hose onto the board. All right, so it all works out perfect, and you can't see the hose, and it's perfect. All right, I'm going to put 2 of them on there. Okay, there. Now I'm pulling the chopstick through, and there's the hose at the end of the chopstick. All right, perfect. Okay, now I'm going to position the plant and put a screw in that side of the hose. You know, cut off the excess so you can't see it, and then put 1 more hose through the bottom of the plant, and it'll definitely be secure. All right, so it's going to be nice and tight against the sphagnum moss, and it's good to go. It's going to have 2 hoses that are holding it on. Okay, and then I water it. I put it into a container of water to let it soak. All right, now look, when I water the plants, it doesn't matter what kind of plants, but what I do is this. You know how they recommend you water once a month? You know, it might say 1 tablespoon per gallon per month. All right, I don't do it that way, because in nature, the plant does not eat like that. The plant eats a little bit every day. All right, so what I do is every other time I water them, I use a weak solution of plant food in the water. In other words, if it says 1 tablespoon per gallon, I'll use like maybe 1/4 of a teaspoon per gallon, but every time I water it, it gets food. You know, that's how that's how it survives in nature. It's not like it's sitting there waiting, you know, for the end of the month to get food. You know what I mean? So anyway, that's what I do, and it seems to work out very well. These plants here, you know, they're not a parasite. They're something else. I can't remember what it's called. I know I should have looked it up, but I forgot. But anyway, what they are, you know, they attach themselves to a tree bark and they start growing. All right, but they don't actually survive from the nutrients from the tree. What they eat is, you know, decaying leaves, bugs, you know, bird poop, you know, whatever falls in behind the sterile leaf, that's what they use for food. So what you want to do is when you put on your plant onto the sphagnum moss, make sure you have a little bit of space on top so that when you water it, the water doesn't just roll off the moss. The water is able to get behind that big round leaf. That's very important. You know, if you pack the sphagnum moss in there real tight and then you try to water it, forget it. The water's just going to roll off the moss. You got to leave a little space on top for the water to get behind that sterile leaf. That's what you want to do. Very important. Okay, so let me see. Do I have both hoses in there? Yeah, I think I do. All right, so there you go. Now you can hang that thing in a tree or on the side of a building like this, you know. Okay, here's some of them that I made. Yeah, it kind of looks like Halloween, and it is going to be Halloween in a week or two. All right, anyway, here you go. I got to go. I got to eat.